1979, up to 500 militants attacked the Grand Mosque al Haram in Mecca, Islam's holiest site. Led by a 43-year-old religious fanatic, one Juhayman al-Otaybi, the militants occupied the Grand Mosque for nearly 2 weeks, in the process shaking the Saudi regime to its core. The ensuing gun battles and attempts by Saudi security forces to retake the mosque officially cost over 255 lives, including 127 members of the security forces.
الحادث اللي حدث مؤلم جدا لجميع السعوديين.
The ringleader, the charismatic Juhayman, survived the security operations, only to be later executed alongside 67 of his followers. Fact check 1. Juhayman al-Otaybi belonged to a Salafist group called al-Jama'ah al-Salafiyya al-Muhtasiba. What was the most peculiar feature of this group? A. Extremism. B. Rejection of the Muslim Brotherhood ideology. C. Tribal affiliations. D. Links to Saudi intelligence. For 4 decades, the Saudi regime capitalized on the myth that its security forces had suppressed the uprising largely on their own, thus dealing a mortal blow to emerging and potential security threats. This official narrative largely prevailed, helped in no small measure by the fact that no major security incident took place in Saudi Arabia for 15 years, until a car bomb outside the offices of the Saudi National Guard in November 1955 claimed the lives of 5 U.S. citizens. But that narrative has now been punctured, thanks to the early February episode of The Hidden is More Immense, a TV program by the Qatari broadcaster Al Jazeera. The documentary shatters the multiple lies and myths that the House of Saud has woven over the decades on the Grand Mosque siege and its aftermath. Chief amongst these is the inescapable fact that the rebellion could not be contained without the help of a foreign power, and that Saudi forces were prepared to kill indiscriminately to achieve their objectives. The documentary is centered on Paul Barrel, a commander of French special forces at the time. According to the program, the Saudi Minister of Interior had met Barrel with a view to commission his services. The details of that initial exchange between a leading Saudi official and the most sensitive agencies of the French state are as persuasive as they are damning. The Saudi pitch was sufficiently strong for former French President Giscard d'Estaing to give his official seal of approval, albeit secretly.
I think that what it signified was that the status of the Saudi internal security forces, as well as their intelligence gathering network, was very amateurish, if you will. Really, the security was designed, the National Guard, if you will, was designed to protect the royal family, and then there was a separate police force which would maintain, social order. But no one had really considered the possibility of essentially an invasion of Mecca.
Armed with a mandate from the French head of state, Barrel traveled to Saudi Arabia with 2 of his most trusted lieutenants. All 3 men were reportedly amongst the most accomplished snipers in the world. Thus, when they arrived in Riyadh in late November 1979 to meet then Saudi King Khalid bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and senior Saudi military leaders, there was no question that the French specialists would be the spearhead for crushing Juhayman's bold rebellion. According to Barrel's account, the Saudi official version of events gets almost everything wrong. notably the casualty count. Burrell claims that up to 5,000 people were killed, 20 times more the official casualty count. Fact check 2. What was the primary reason behind Juhayman's grandfather, Sultan bin Majid bin Hamid al-Otaybi's decision to fight the founder of the Third Saudi Kingdom, King Abdulaziz al Saud, in the 1920s? A. Too much state corruption. B. Speedy modernization. C. Deals with Western powers. D. Stopping raiding or looting parties into Iraq to kill and rob Shias. Not fully satisfied with all the French mercenary help on offer, the Saudis also reportedly recruited American mercenaries, specifically helicopter pilots, to fly over the Grand Mosque with a view to intimidate the rebels. Political observers say the importance of all these revelations, first and foremost, is the timing, as Saudi Arabia today is beset by a wide range of internal and external threats. Who can forget Donald Trump's remarkable insult to his supposed allies back in October 2018, when he said the Saudi regime wouldn't last 2 weeks without U.S. support?
We're protecting you. You might not be there for 2 weeks without us.
But we all know that if Trump says anything, it's probably wrong, no? I mean, the guy's a congenital liar, so you can't take anything he says. So maybe they can survive a month. I think that the Saudis have a lot of land and not much population. So they haven't got what you would really call an army, because they don't really have the population to build a numerous army, a modern army. They have certainly an incredible stockpile of modern weapons, but most of those weapons are stockpiled. You know, they're in bunkers in the desert or something like that. And so the numbers of people who are trained to fight in a modern war are very limited. And you can see the results of this in Yemen.
In light of Burrell's revelations, Trump is right on the money, as Saudi Arabia has neither the capacity nor the will to defend itself against serious national security threats. Another important takeaway from the latest revisiting of the Grand Mosque siege is just how seriously the Saudi authorities assess the threat, as demonstrated by the lengths they were willing to go to suppress it. Fact check 3. In ideological terms, to which Saudi Islamic movement or current was Juhayman's rebellion closest to? A. Sahwa, awakening. B. Neo-Salafi, rejectionist. C. Sururi. D. Traditional Salafi. Juhayman al-Otaybi and his short-lived movement emerged from the depths of the Saudi Wahhabi nexus, and to that extent, he presented the modern Saudi state with its gravest moment when its very survival was at stake. In the decades since, various so-called jihadist movements, but in fact terrorist groups including Al-Qaeda and Daesh, have sprung up to mimic Juhayman's actions, even though in strict ideological terms, they have not overtly embraced him. But it is only a matter of time before a new Salafi or Khawarij movement attracts sufficient mass and traction to present the House of Saud with an existential threat. Who will the Saudis turn to in that situation? Back to France again?
الحادث اللي حدث مؤلم جدا لجميع السعوديين.